Welcome back to the Jungle Fever podcast. I'm Ethan Sargent. Nathan Crowley is alongside me. As always, it is July 13th, 2026. And again, we continue to kind of await the Bengals getting back in the building, getting back into camp. Obviously, it's been a very exciting time. Um, Last year, or it was, I guess, a very exciting time last year. You just had so much going on this year, not as much, right? It's been much quieter, which me personally, I'm a little bit. I guess if you're like a real content person, maybe you
I was
want
gonna
that.
say excited is not the word I would use for last year around this time.
Yeah, it was it was
Frustrated?
chaotic. Chaotic.
Yeah.
So definitely that is a part of it. Um this year I think calm is probably the best word to describe it. It's just been calm, it's been relaxed. A lot of good, like we've talked really all these last couple weeks, good vibes, good energy throughout the building right now. And we're under 50 days away. It's pretty crazy. It's sneaking up. That's kind of what it does in the summer. I'm one of those people that really enjoys like the summertime, right? Obviously, summer's a little different now than it was when you were in school. It's like, all right, you're off now. Everybody's got work, you got school. I'm about to go back to school. Aiden's busy at work, and you've got different how does it say different responsibilities in life. um but it always is that it's that creeping little thing that's coming up. It's all right, the calendar flips from June to July and you're a month closer to football, and then it's July to August, and all of a sudden there are football games happening in the month of August. And then how the NFL goes now. It really is a 24/7 news cycle. And it is no different this year. We've seen chaos all over the league, right? With the exception of one big swing by the Bengals. It's been a pretty, I think, straightforward offseason in terms of they did some good things for agency. They obviously took the big swing and going out and getting a premium player for a premium draft pick and Dexter Lawrence for pick number 10. And now you're looking to build and you're trying to be one of the best teams in the AFC again, which has not been the case the last couple of years. But they've got the pieces to do that this year. So I wanted to start off today, kind of pick up where we left off a little bit last week. Last week, we kind of spent all the whole time just talking about the different facets of how this offense can get better. I think that's the spark notes of last week's episode, where we kind of just dived in and saw okay, what if it all goes right, right? What if this offense goes to that level? And we kind of talked about how that can do. And I think the one aspect we didn't really touch on was that offensive line. Because I think the first part of this conversation is, and similarly to the rest of this vein of the offense, there ain't a whole lot that's changing. All five starters, or I guess not even five starters from week one, let's say from week four, because that's about when Dalton Reisner came into the fold. All five starters from week four and beyond last year are going to be back in 2026. Just how important, I think, even more so than some of these other spots. I'm not sure if there's a more valuable spot to have the same five in as this offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, it gets talked about a lot in the NFL, but I don't know how much people really realize it. When you have a group, especially like the offensive line that's together for a long time, just what that's able to do, the continuity in the offensive line, the trust that you build in one another, and then obviously the nuanced stuff in the offensive line, that it gets challenged a lot in today's NFL. You think about obviously, Brian Flores' defense kind of gets talked about a lot, and that's the general trend in the NFL with defenses is their disguised pressure, and you as an offensive line have to be so much smarter nowadays than ever before in diagnosing what's going on and trusting the guy to your right or to your left to pick up what they're supposed to pick up on. And that gets a lot easier when you've worked with a group for a year and you're coming up on year two and you get a whole summer to train with one another and the starters stay the same. You just build up that trust, and then it obviously helps when you have the experience that a lot of this offensive line has. Probably three out of the five offensive linemen have. So it's massive. And then obviously, I just think for a guy like Joe Burrow, and we talk about it all the time, with the injury concerns that do come, with the beating that he has taken over the past couple years. It's important to protect the franchise, of course.
It is goal number one. right? You got to keep number nine on his feet. You got to give him chance because look, we know, and most of the NFL knows, you give him enough time, he's a killer. He's gonna get you. So the goal for the Bengals has been to get better. And again, for those out there that still believe, and you see the comments all over Instagram all the time or Twitter or wherever you get your news, it's, all right, well, the Bengals look pretty good, but how about that O line, right?
That's my
And it's
first that's my first thing of somebody who just does
yeah, it's
not
such a
know what they're
tired
talking
take.
about. It's just like you just don't know. You just don't watch the games. Like it's
Hmm.
instantly somebody says something like that, I just throw it out
Hmm.
because it's just nonsense.
So, yeah, on a deeper level with this O line, I really think that it just came into its own the second half of last year, right? And really, I think you saw, right, they did a great job with Joe Flacco, and then when Burrow came back, this was one of it's a I don't know how crazy it is to say this is one of the better offensive lines in the AFC the back half of last year. Joe Burrow's sack rates were as low as they've ever been when he returned from that injury after week number or after Thanksgiving, that great game against the Ravens. So, I think when you look at this line, you go player by player briefly here. Obviously, you've got your two tackles. I'm gonna save Mims for last because I got a lot on Mims. But you got Orlando Brown Jr., who is a vet. Right, established. You've got multiple linemen on this line who have won Super Bowl championships. Orlando Brown Jr. is one of them, and now him and Burrow have that understanding. They have that rapport, right? They've now, I mean, Orlando Brown Jr. is a leader on that offensive line now. He was the Bengals' big swing a few years ago in free agency. I think he's come in, he's been very solid at that spot. The athleticism is not, you know, he has a point, I think 8.3 RAS score. He's not outrunning people, but he is as good technically as any offensive lineman in football. He has done a really good job with, as we know, tough assignments in the AFC North, right? There are some real, real good pass rushers on the opposite side that he's had to deal with. And the same goes for Mims, who we'll save for last. But I think Orlando Brown Jr., he signed an extension this offseason for another 2 years. The Bengals clearly see some value there, even with him getting a little bit on the older side. So, Aiden, what's the outlook on Orlando Brown Jr., you think?
He is the one part of this offensive line that just worries me slightly. I just think his age kind of started to show some cracks last season, specifically in the speed aspect of things. Like when he faced speed rushers, he would just get blitzed off of that line. And like you mentioned, he didn't really have the athleticism to keep up. That's not really his game. I mean, he's 6'8", 350, like a huge human being. And when you reach age 30 and you're going into your year nine season, it gets a little bit more difficult to kick out and get out there for that outside edge and really kind of nullify that speed rush. Slightly concerned, but I will say, even though it was, I guess, a slight down year by Orlando Brown Jr. standards, it still was a very serviceable year. It was one that you can kind of bank on. And then obviously the intangible aspect of his game, I think, is one that gets underrated a little bit. I think he's a phenomenal leader in the locker room. I think he's somebody that a guy like Amarius Mims really leans on, and I think that's important for this group. But if you wanted to pick holes, I guess especially at that tackle position where athleticism and speed comes into play a little bit more than a
Hmm.
guard, it is slightly concerning that he's going. He's going to be 30. He's going into year nine, but he hasn't given you enough to feel the pressing need to make some kind of move. Now, a year or two down the line, maybe we have that conversation.
When
But
you
for
look
this
at the
year, be
extension that he
okay.
signed, right, it's not a 4 or 5 year deal, right? It's a 2 year extension. I think he would have been out of contract after this season. So he's basically got 3 years left, right? And that's kind of the window the Bengals are operating in at the moment, right? Is, with what they did with Lawrence and his extension, right? And how they did the rest of it. That's your operating system at the moment. So, yeah, they may look for an upgrade in a year or two. Maybe they're picking 32, right? Hopefully, fingers crossed, they're picking 32, and there's an O lineman there that they really like, and they want to develop him for a year. That could be a great spot to make a pick like that. But obviously, that requires a lot of other things to happen first. Let's talk about the interior of this line. Um, you've got a center in Ted Karras who just is aging like fine wine. I mean, it is really, I think it's awesome to see just how high a level he continues to play at. He had a little bit of a scare, I think, towards the back end of 25, where he kind of dealt with probably one of the lowest graded stretches of his career. But last year he came back with a vengeance. I think he proved why the Bengals actually re-signed him, and earned that money for sure last year. And again, leading an interior now that has a rookie or now a second year player on it, and then a guy who's basically coming in off the street in Reisner, and then another rookie at points during the season in Rivers. So you got to give, I think, boatloads of credit to Ted Karras for what he's done. And again, I mean, you talk about leadership.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anybody on this Bengals team that's a better leader than Ted Karras. That includes Burrow. I think
He's the
he's just
heart and soul of the locker room. Like he just
he's
is.
he's created a brand that is now widespread all over. I mean, if you're walking around in Cincinnati, you're stunned if you don't see a Cincy hat. I mean, it is as recognizable as it gets. What he's done for the community, and with, that goes hand in hand with the hat. And then just what he brings to this team, what he brings to the table as a leader, and then as a football player, right? To be a good leader, you got to lead by example, and Ted Karras does that in boatloads. And then the two guards, right? It was last summer. How often did we sit on these Zooms and talk about the guard battle royal? Who's gonna play where? Who's winning the spot? Names like Lucas Patrick. You had Rivers. And then this third round rookie named Dylan Fairchild just came in and made that left guard spot his own. Was I believe the highest rated rookie guard in terms of pass block win rate in 2025. He took an opportunity and he ran with it, right? And I think he fits the mold exactly of what Joe Burrow wants out of his interior alignment. You don't need to be, Tyler Smith. You just need to be a good football player, and that's what Dylan Fairchild is. And I think the wrestling background has been really cool, right? I like that connection as well. Scott Peters also has the MMA wrestling experience. Fairchild was a state champion wrestler in high school. It's clear that those two have built a strong rapport and connection. And then, right guard, you pull a guy like Dalton Reisner off of the street, right? A guy the Bengals fans were clamoring for weeks, for months to bring him in. It took a lot of teeth pulling, but the Bengals did it eventually. And the results were reaped, and the interior of the line was the best it's been probably since 2022.
Which is extremely important because when you look at the modern NFL, interior pass rush is the best it's ever been. The three techniques and their ability to wreck games and collapse the pocket from the inside is just the importance of that has never been greater in the NFL. And so, as a response, I think you'll see a lot of guards in the next couple years make a little bit more money. Now, they're not going to make tackle money, obviously, but I think that that floor is going to be raised just because I think teams are recognizing the importance of it. And I think that was really important to hit on a guy like Dylan Fairchild. And to hit on a Dalton Reisner, even though he's 31 going into year 8, like a guy like you said, that was just kind of sitting around. He was too good to be sitting around. Now, they swung and missed at a couple of different spots. Jalen Rivers was unplayable last year. And so the depth, I think, at this position is
Where I was
um,
going next.
yeah, the depth at the
Yeah.
position is obviously scary, but I think a lot of credit has to go to Scott Peters and what he was able to do with this offensive line. In year one as the offensive line coach, I think he hit the nail on the head. Like he did as well as he probably could
Yep.
have
Agree.
in his time, and I'm excited to see how it continues to progress with a guy like we'll get into it with a guy like Amarius Mims, who I still think has a lot of room to grow.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about the depth first before I get to Mims, because I think a lot of the depth is you're relying on two guys that I think you took in this year's draft. You've got Connor Lew, who I think is a guy that the Bengals love. I think it's a guy the Bengals got probably a round or two too late. Like not in terms of the Bengals making the wrong choice. I think this is a guy that if he doesn't tear his ACL late
That's
last season for Auburn, I think Connor Lew is
that's a
probably a
big
second
if.
round pick, right? Um, but I don't think, and we talked about this during our draft talks, is I don't think Connor Lew could have found himself in a better situation, right? He is not going to be tasked with, he may not play a snap this year, right? He probably won't play a snap.
Hopefully he does not play.
Um, he probably will be, on PUP to start. From everything I've seen, the ACL tear is recovering very well. Um, and he is learning from one of the best, right? He gets to learn from Ted Karras, and he'll draw knowledge from all places. And you just kind of get to sit and watch and learn, right? And we've seen how valuable that can be for some of these offensive linemen to not just get thrown into the fire, to be able to grow and be able to learn from the sidelines. Because when that number gets called, and I'm going to tell you right now, it will get called here pretty soon for Connor Lew. I don't think he's going to be sitting on the sidelines for 4 or 5 seasons. He's going to be ready. Right. And I think we talked at length about Karras and Peters in general already in this conversation. They're the ones that are going to shape him into who I think somebody that can be a very, very high level starter in the NFL. The tape at Auburn is good. Like, it's really good. Like I said, this injury probably cost him a good amount of money and a couple hundred or a hundred or so draft picks in terms of selection stock. So, I think he is one for the future. And he may well have the role to play this season, but again, he's going to have to sit and watch, at least for the moment, and that's a good thing. A guy that I do think has a role to play this season is a later pick from the Bengals, and it is where is he? The kid out of
Brian
Duke.
Parker.
Yes, Brian Parker, who they've got listed as a tackle, but he can play all 5 spots on the offensive line. And I think the Bengals are not going to be hesitant to test that versatility in training camp and in preseason. Expect Brian Parker to play a boatload of snaps in the preseason at every spot. I think the Bengals want him ready to be that first guy off the bench. I don't think they want Cody Ford to be that first guy off the bench anymore. Let's hope and pray that it's
That's
not.
the concern, right? Like you want to. Last week we talked about best case scenarios. Worst case scenarios for this team is Orlando Brown Jr. goes down for a significant time, or as we've seen with Demarius Mims, he goes down for some time. Then what happens? You're throwing a rookie to the fire. You're throwing Cody Ford out there. It's not good. Backup
Mm,
offensive line is just not good. It's a glaring weakness for this team. It's scary. And with this
you're
Bengals
relying
team
on
and
a
their
lot of
luck and their
unknowns.
history, something tells you, something's gonna go wrong. This is the
Yeah.
NFL season.
I mean, you look at the O line that they put out in the second AFC Championship game against Kansas City. And yes, I mean, Kappa got hurt, Jonah Williams got hurt, but like they were playing Hakeem Adeniji and Jackson Carman in AFC Championship
We
games,
don't want that to happen.
which tells you everything you need to know
Yeah.
about where that roster was. But again, I think again, I have a lot of faith in Brian Parker, but again, you don't want him to have to do that, right? And again, like I said, I think that is the biggest weakness of this O line is the guys coming in off the bench. So let's go. We put it off for long enough. Let's talk about Amarius Mims because I think I'm not sure. This is an interesting take of mine. I'm not sure if there's a more important player on in terms of a more let me rephrase that. A player that the Bengals need to be elite more. Jamar Chase is going to be elite, right? Joe Burrow, he's going to be just fine. T. Higgins, great football player. Marius Mims is one of those guys that's kind of like if this is that benchmark of elite, right? Like Trent Williams, for example, when he was at his prime, or I'm trying to think of like Andrew Whitworth for this franchise's example, right? This is that bar. Marius Mims started here and he's gotten up to here. How can he get that next step? Is the question, right? And if you watch the Bengals, and if you're watching this podcast, you probably do. You know that Marius Mims is really, really good at the game of football. Last year, when Joe Burrow came back, 0 sacks allowed by Marius Mims when Joe Burrow returned from injury. That was what 6 games, not 1 sack allowed. He was playing like an elite offensive tackle at the back half of last season. And it's exactly why the Bengals drafted him with a premium selection in 2024. And you have seen the development that the Bengals were hoping for out of Amarius Mims so far. This is the year where I think you need it to pay off. This is the year where I think we're targeting Pro Bowls. We're targeting all pros. And if he can put up the numbers he did at the back half of last year, that's not a crazy thing to say that he could be in that conversation, Aiden.
No, he has all the tools. He has all the tools. I'll go back and I'll say it time and time again. I was skeptical about the pick on draft night with Amarius Mims, not because of Amarius Mims. I was skeptical of the pick because of the Bengals' ability to develop a guy like Amarius Mims who didn't play a lot in college. He just didn't. He came out, he's entering year 3. This is his age 24 season. He came out of the draft and he was 20, 21 and didn't play a lot of games at Georgia, and that was scary. But what you've seen is a guy who each year has taken a step, taken a step, and taken a step. Now you hope, like you mentioned, that he takes that final step. And I think he has the ability to do so. I mean, the physical ability is there, just like Orlando, 6'8", 350. He's incredibly athletic for his size as well. He's a mauler. He's a guy that
Hmm.
you really want to lean on, and I think they will lean on, and I think he has that ability. And like you mentioned, I think he already showed you what he can do towards the back half of last year. The question is, and this is something that he has even said that he needs to get better at, he just needs to stay healthy. He needs to understand that Amarius Mims at 80% is better than Cody Ford at 100, or Amarius Mims at 70% is better than Brian Parker at 100%. That's just the reality of the situation. And it
Not a
feels like
knock on
too many.
Parker either. That's just
No,
the
no.
reality.
Yeah, it's just the reality of the situation. And it feels like at times last year, he would tweak his wrist, or, he would have like these kind of minor
He
things
had
he'd point
that. What
out.
was the nagging injury that he had? Was it a thumb? Was it a? He
I
had
couldn't remember.
something.
I couldn't tell you
Yeah.
off the top of
But
my
like
head, but
again, like there'd be
yeah, it's
like he'd
smaller
have to
things.
take drives, right? He'd have to take it, and the drop off when you put in a Cody Ford was noticeable, right?
Hmm.
And again, I'm gonna reiterate this. Not only did he not allow a sack post Thanksgiving, he didn't allow a single quarterback hit through the last 6 games of the regular season. I mean, just that's elite. There's no saying that. Today an article dropped on The Athletic, Paul Denner Jr., very established, very great Bengals writer. He actually picked Amarius Mims as his breakout candidate, and he said the first line of this was, quote, those paying attention might say Mims already broke out last year. Those paying attention are saying that, right? So I think when you look at what Amarius Mims brings to the table, I mean, he's got, like Aiden said, he's got all the tools. He is very much capable of being, I think, an all-pro, a Pro Bowler this year. It's now about can he put it all together and can he stay healthy? And it might be the biggest question of this Bengals season in general, and that same question can be asked for 4 or 5 of the Bengals' biggest players. Is can they stay healthy? Because if they can, this team on paper is, like Joe Burrow has said, probably the best one that he's been with over the course of his, young NFL career. But,
I'm
it
excited to be
all,
wrong about Amarius Mims, and I'm excited just to go watch him work. I mean, he's incredible. He's just so fun to
he's
watch,
a
like when
monster.
he's out there. In the
He
Bengals
he made
profile at
TJ
tackle is hilarious
he
to me,
made
just like
TJ
how big
Watt
they get.
look like he made TJ Watt look like a middle schooler. TJ Watt is a great football player, and he every time TJ Watt is lined up alongside him, he's not winning. And it's like again, all due respect, TJ Watt, great football player, been doing it for a long time in Pittsburgh, multiple times defensive player of the year. And Amarius Mims has shut him down multiple times, and that doesn't just happen. So again, I expect a lot of that this year. Again, he's probably one of the people that's quite glad that Myles Garrett is off to him and Orlando Brown Jr. We're probably waving him on the airplane as Myles Garrett heads off to LA. But you still got TJ Watt. You've got plenty of other good pass rushers in this division.
There's someone you didn't want to say, Trey? I bet they're licking their
Well, no,
chops
I
for
don't care about
Trey
him.
out there on the
He don't
field.
matter.
I bet they are licking their chops for that Ravens game.
Well, you think about how many reps those guys have gone one-on-one on that practice field. You think about all the battles, right? It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Those 2 Ravens games, I mean, they're gonna be fun. I promise you that. I mean, you think about these last few years of Bengals Ravens games. I mean, almost every single one of them has been. Well, last year it was 2 blowouts with the road team getting both on the road. But the year, I mean, you think back to the 2024 games, both of those games were absolutely cinematic. Bengals came out on the wrong side of both of those, unfortunately. But, the division games are going to be fun this year. And the Ravens games in particular, I think, are going to be the most fun. Um, Real quick, couple of small pieces of news. DJ Turner's agent left Athletes First, so David Mulugheta, see you later. It's not Mulugheta. Let me quickly caveat this to say that David Mulugheta is not DJ Turner's agent. It's a guy named he was just a part of that. I'm not even gonna look up the guy's name, but it was a guy under the Athletes First umbrella. And an
Andrew
interesting
Kessler.
caveat as well, and this could potentially be interesting is that he also represents Joey Porter Jr., who is also looking for a new deal. So just keep that in mind as well. Maybe, we've talked about timing with deals a lot. And Joey Porter Jr. has also played at a pretty high level for the Pittsburgh Steelers since he was drafted in the same round in the same year as DJ Turner. So keep that in mind in terms of compensation and all that little stuff. We'll keep an eye. Maybe it could be a framework potentially one way or the other. Here's a fun segment. This is an off-season segment, but it's a fun segment. ESPN just dropped their they've been doing their top 10 lists for all these positions. They've done a few. They've done O linemen. They've done cornerbacks. DJ Turner got an honorable mention in cornerback. That's ridiculous. He's better than that. A few others. They have not done wide receivers yet, I don't believe. So, like, Jamar will be in the top three, and T will
He'll be
probably
in the
get honorable
top
mention.
one. He'll be the
He
top two
should
or
be.
one. Yeah.
I think they'll put JSN one, but
I
like
don't
I
think
don't
so.
I don't agree with
I
that. I'm just
no, this is coaches and executives and scouts. It's not fans.
yeah,
There's
sure.
not a universe. There's no way a coach or an executive will make the argument that
Yeah.
JSN is better.
So, yeah, wide receivers will be out on Wednesday. So we could do, I mean, quickly, we could just kind of run through most of these lists right now. Chase Brown was an honorable mention on the running back
Yeah.
list, just as a receiving votes, right? That's a tough list to get on. No real harm or foul
I think he has the
there.
opportunity to be in there after this year. I
Yeah,
truly do.
I think so. I think like we talked about it at length last week. He's got a big role to play. There is, I believe, Dexter Lawrence was actually dropped from last year. He was the number one overall defensive tackle. He dropped to, I believe, number 8 this year, number 7 or number 8. I want to say
Yeah, he
number
joined the
7.
Cincinnati Bengals. That's what happened.
Yeah, whoever didn't rank this guy is a complete one. I don't know who it was, but they need to.
You can say he took a step back. He did.
Sure.
But
Sure.
the underlying metrics are still there for him. I don't understand this narrative surrounding him, and I'm excited for him to go out and prove
And he
everyone.
was he was banged up a lot of the year, and you had the whole contract thing hanging over his head. It's just it was a bad, it was a bad year. And I think he's motivated. He's as ready as it gets. So, I don't believe the Bengals are going to have many other people on this list, or on these lists. So let's get right to quarterbacks, and we'll just give it to you. Josh Allen, number one on this list. Patrick Mahomes, number two.
I mean, what are we?
Staff.
Okay, time out. What are we doing?
I
Like legitimately, what are we doing? Like, what are we ranking on? I'm sorry. Like, how is Mahomes not one?
I don't know. I mean, I guess the only thing I could say, and look, I by no means am I a Mahomes fan, but I can acknowledge his greatness. The ACL, but even that, like, how do you watch what happened in Denver in the divisional round playoff game where Josh Allen had two back-breaking turnovers, one right before the half to give Denver 3 free points, and another right at the end of the game. And yes, it was a great play by the corner, but still another turnover. And what, he had 4 turnovers in that game? There were more.
I'm not hating on Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is the second or third best quarterback in the league. My Bengals bias says third. But Mahomes has 3 Super Bowls. I don't understand what we're talking about here. I
Josh Allen
really
hasn't even
don't.
been to one.
If we're assuming that they're all healthy and full strength, it's just not a
And
conversation.
we talked about it last year when, the Bengals were already done. We were talking about the playoffs. Josh Allen was never going to have a better shot than he did last year. I still believe that, right? You had no Chiefs, no Mahomes, you had no Bengals with Burrow, you had no Ravens with Lamar. Your stiffest competition was Bo Nix and it was Drake May. And you couldn't get by Bo Nix, right? It's
As much as I hate to watch Patrick Mahomes succeed because I'm a Bengals fan, there's not a
he's
universe he's two.
he's
But
as
keep
good as it
going. Sorry,
gets. He is as good as it
that
gets.
pissed me off.
So Mahomes is 2, Matt Stafford is 3, Joey B is 4. We'll come back to him, of course. Lamar right behind him at number 5. Dak Prescott at number 6. Dak's getting a lot of respect recently, and
As he
I
should.
I
As
like
he
that.
should.
I agree. Justin Herbert at number 7. There's If Man. Drake May at number 8. I would put May over Herbert. I'm not gonna lie. I think
Okay.
I would. I think I would put Drake May.
I need to see it this year for May. I
Okay.
do.
Jared Goff at number 9. Caleb Williams comes in at number 10. You've got a bunch of honorable mentions here. Sam Darnold, Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Baker, Trevor and Jalen, Bo Nix, Daniel Jones, CJ Stroud, all those guys. I
It
don't
took
know
you a
who.
little bit to name Jalen Hurts. That's kind of,
Hurts was number 17.
yep, yep.
So yeah, some interesting. Again, very interested to see what happens this year in Philadelphia. Very interested. It's a big year for Jalen Hurts with AJ Brown now out of town, and big year for Devontae Smith as well. Big name for them. So let's go up to Joe Burrow. He is ranked number four. Somebody, a very smart person, had him ranked number one. The lowest ranking came in at number six. He was number three last year, so he drops down a slot. The first couple paragraphs of this are as follows. Burrow's durability concerns pushed him out of the top three, where he was the last 2 years. Several voters took him out of the top five due to his games missed. But when it comes to pure quarterback play, who said this quote last week, by the way? Burrow is still considered the closest resemblance to Brady's game. Best pocket movement in the league, accelerated vision, best in the league, said a personnel evaluator. The latter point referencing Burrow's processing speed at the line of scrimmage or post snap. Not big or fast, slightly above average arm, but the other stuff makes him go. I love this quote. This quote kind of got me fired up. This quote kind of made the NFL tingle a little bit. An NFL coordinator said Burrow doesn't play in a system; he is the system, and
Do you
that's
remember the
tough.
last time that quote was said and who it was about? Do you
No,
remember?
you're gonna have to put me in.
James Harden.
Mm.
And that didn't end up too well, so I hope it's not the case.
He's averaging 40.
But
But
anyway,
no, I think I'm okay with Burrow being ranked here. I understand why the durability is dropping him, right? Yes, he's missed 16 games in 2 years, and that comes off another year with injuries. And it's a problem. It's going to hang over his head probably the rest of his career, right? Just with the amount of times that it's now happened. And every time now that he goes down and he has, maybe he just, you notice that sometimes he feels a little discomfort. He'll roll the shoulder or he'll maybe shake out a foot. And every time that happens, Bengals fans are going to have their hearts in their mouths, right? It's going to be a natural reaction now. But when Joe, and we have said this, right? I don't think we're talking crazy here and we both said this, when Joe Burrow is playing at his peak, there is very little that you can do as an NFL defense to stop him.
yeah, no, absolutely. I probably, based off of what you said, I would probably agree. I don't have a problem with him at four. I personally would put him at two, if I was making this list.
I was going to say,
That
I think that could be I think we can end this episode with this. Give me your top five.
Okay. My top five would go Mahomes one.
Okay.
I just he is that guy until he's proven otherwise. I would put Burrow two. I would then put Josh Allen three. I would put Stafford four. I love that Stafford's getting his flowers even at his old age. This is not who you're building your franchise around. That's not the question. It's next year. Who do you want to play at quarterback? And Matthew Stafford, time and time again, has shown that father time is not
He's
going
the
to get
reigning
him.
MVP.
It's just not. He's not going to get him. And then five, I would go Lamar. So I agree with everybody in their top five. I would
Yeah.
just move them around.
I feel like most people probably have those five quarterbacks in their top five right now. You've got
Yeah,
the
you would hope.
AFC guys. Well, again, you don't even need to bother with the online discourse sometimes. It gets
Right.
bad. But, you've got the reigning MVP. You've got, I think, each of the last 4 or 5 MVPs in there. And then, you add Burrow, who's a multi-time comeback player of the year, was third in MVP voting just a year ago. So, there's I think a lot to I think it's tough. I think for me, I would probably also put Joe Burrow at number two. I think him and Allen are almost interchangeable. I think it really is such the thing about comparing Burrow to Allen is I think they're such different quarterbacks in a lot of ways. Josh Allen is a true dual threat, right? Yes, he's got a cannon for an arm. He's got great legs. He really can beat you with both of those. Joe Burrow, yeah, he can run. We've seen it, but he's not looking to beat you with his legs, right? Um, and I think, and I've talked about it at length about how Josh Allen has I like to call it a bozo gene. And I think the last couple of years, he's actually done a pretty good job at limiting that. Now it's not gone. We've seen it prop up at some pretty bad times, namely last year in the playoffs.
I see
But
the same thing with like Ellie at shortstop. Like Ellie has such a good arm that it gets him in trouble sometimes. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's the case with Josh Allen. He's so physically talented and gifted, it almost like hurts him sometimes, where he's like, I can make this throw. I can do this. And it's like, Josh, we don't need this right now. We just
Yeah.
need you to pick up 10. But anyway,
So yeah, I would put Burrow at two. I would put Allen at three. I'd put Stafford at four. I'd put Lamar at five. Was that the same? I think it was the
yeah.
same. Yeah, it was the same. So yeah, I think that's it. I do think there are a couple of quarterbacks that could definitely break in. I think those two 2024 guys could definitely break in this year. I think if May has another good year, he gets into this conversation. I think if Caleb Williams tightens up on a couple things and then keeps it going, he can get back into this conversation. And then another wild card, can Jaden Daniels stay healthy? Can he stay healthy? Can he put together a campaign like his Rookie of the Year one? Because if he can, he gets closer to this conversation. So, that classes of rookie quarterbacks so far has kind of lived up to that billing. You saw Bo Nix put together a great year last year as well. Still waiting on JJ. We'll see what happens with him. But 4 out of 5 so far, I think you give a check mark tentatively to start their careers. And then you've got a 1X. 4 out of 5 is definitely a good hit rate for quarterbacks. That class is looking good. And then, I mentioned it. I love that Dak's getting respect. I think
Yeah.
he is continually, and yes, he's been put in a good situation. He's got great weapons around him, but so does Burrow, right? So does Allen. A lot of these guys have had great weapons. And I think that in terms of pure passing ability, Prescott's up there, right? I think he really is that good. Now, the success is where Prescott kind of gets hurt because he hasn't been able to kind of take the Cowboys up that level. But a lot of that isn't his fault. And, I think he's done about as good a job as he can up to now with dealing with that organization as well. A lot of pressure with being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. So yeah, that's fun. I think next week we'll take a look at some of these other lists. I expect I don't know how many more Bengals will actually even be on these lists besides the receivers, of course. We'll see if Brian Cook gets any love in the safety conversation. We'll see. And then they're not going to have anybody on tomorrow's list. What do you think tomorrow's list is?
I couldn't linebacker.
It's off ball linebackers.
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
I don't think we'll see Barrett or Demetrius on there. But that'll do it for this week's edition of Junk Fever Pod. We're getting closer. Bengals report 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from today, Bengals are back for camp. I am thrilled. I cannot. I really do. Last thing, I don't know if I've been as excited for a Bengals season as I have been for this one in like at least since 22. Think post Super Bowl year, I was, you're trying to get back and win it. Um, but this year, man, the vibes, everything around it, everything is good. Just gotta keep it rolling. See how we do in preseason. Get the boys ready and see you at the Jungle. Week number 1, Tampa Bay. That game is 48 days away. So we're getting closer. But until next time, we'll see you later. This has been the Jungle Fever Podcast.